Hey everyone, it's FLAK Fire. The first trailer for Call of Duty Vanguard is here, and it's actually looking pretty good. A lot of people had concerns the game was going to make the same mistakes as Battlefield 5, but it looks like that isn't the case. Knock on wood. For this video, I took some time to break down everything we see in the trailer, so without further ado, let's get into it. So, right off the bat, we're looking at an interesting location. It's either a port or a dock, and it takes place at night. If I had to venture a guess, I would say this is somewhere in Russia, based on the architecture of the buildings in the background. On the backs of the soldiers here, we can see a Mosin Nagant sniper rifle and an Owen submachine gun. Vanguard takes players to a variety of different locations, the Midway Islands, Stalingrad, northern France, and North Africa included. We also know that Berlin is a destination, though it's not clear if it'll feature that heavily in the campaign. Vanguard follows the formation of the fictional Task Force 1, which is apparently comprised of the game's 4 main characters, which you can see here. They're based on real-life World War II heroes and are tied to real units and real battles. You've got Australian Lucas Griggs. He's based on New Zealander Charles Upham. The Brit Arthur Kingsley is based on Sidney Cornell. The American Wade Jackson is inspired by Vernon Mike McKeel, and the Russian Polina Petrova is based on Ludmila Pavlichenko. This helps ground the campaign in history, and apparently all 4 of them have stowed away on this German train, destination unknown. I assume that this happens later in the campaign as we supposedly explore the different theaters with each individual first before they come together and form this new task force. I also want to take a moment to point out the rain effects here look awesome. On top of the train, we can see from the imagery here that Sledgehammer Games might be avoiding the use of the swastika in Vanguard. That is a little surprising considering it was present in the campaign for Call of Duty World War II. It could just be censored for the trailer. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. In this shot, Petrova jumps from the roof of the train to take down a German soldier who's holding a Kar-98K. This could be indicative of a stealth mission in the campaign. Not terribly surprising. In the background, we can see what looks like a motorcycle and sidecar, probably a Zündapp KS-75. There's also a Kettenkrad transport on the same car, and even a Raupenschlepper Ost. The latter was a lightweight tracked vehicle developed in response to the problematic mud and snow encountered during the first German push into the Soviet Union. I mention these as they might appear in the game's multiplayer or even in Warzone, and it also kind of helps to time out exactly when this scene is happening. The next scene probably takes place in Stalingrad during the initial German invasion. We can see the body of a Red Army soldier rolled off of a building, while what looks like a Panzer IV with turret Schutzen rolls along below. Flashes of light are seen in the windows here, accompanied by screams which would seem to imply executions. Similarly, some civilians are held on the roof here with the implication the same will follow. In the siege of Stalingrad, Stalin infamously refused to evacuate the city's civilians, and tens of thousands died. Above the city, German Heinkel 111 bombers fly overhead. The Luftwaffe notoriously reduced Stalingrad to near rubble, which actually wound up making the city more difficult to capture. Here we can spot an onion dome and the symbol of the Russian Orthodox Church, again indicating this is probably Stalingrad early in the fighting. In a change of location, the trailer shifts to the Pacific Theater and to Jackson. We join a flight of American Douglas SPD Dauntless dive bombers. These are probably on their way back to their carriers, given the lack of external munitions. There's wonderful detail on the aircraft here. You can see shadows here, give you the feeling there is actual metal framework under the skin here, and you can also see the dive brakes. The next shot shows the Douglas pursuing a Japanese Zero over a mountainous area. It comes under fire from a Japanese anti-aircraft battery. Evidently, the aircraft is hit. If you slow it down, you can see that the engine has died, and the pilot must crash land the plane in the jungle. Now, I don't know how accurate the bracing position is here, but if you're going to land in the jungle, you probably don't want broken appendages. In the next scene, we join Riggs with what looks like some British Crusader II tanks in the North African desert. The soldier here is carrying a Lee Enfield Mark IV, while the German soldiers in the next shot are wielding the MP40 and the MG42. In the distance, you can see what look like 88mm guns. The Germans used these to devastating effect in the desert campaigns. Here we can see a Douglas A-20 as a British Boston, and we can see a few Panzer IV tanks as well. Back behind the Crusaders, the soldier is equipped with a drum-fed MG42 and is aiming down the sight while standing. That's interesting to say the least. The next scene officially takes us to the Soviet Union. In the streets below, we can see German soldiers rounding up civilians. There's a Sonderkraftfahrzeug 231 and an officer shouting into a megaphone. The civilians are lined up against a wall, and when things seem bleak, the Russian soldier takes aim with her Mosin-Nagant sniper rifle. The next shot actually takes place at a different time. This is in the winter in Stalingrad with plenty of snow. The uniforms on German soldiers here in the scene are actually excellent. And this helmet in particular is interesting. The skull imagery here is actually more associated with Finnish soldiers, though some did fight under German command in World War II against the Soviets. He's wearing a camouflage mask made infamous by Germany's Dirlewanger Brigade. In the background, we get a better look at a German armored car and its commander, who is wielding a Luger pistol. Interestingly, the swastika is absent from his armband, but you might notice the skull and crossbones on his cap clearly denotes that he is an SS officer. For the Western Front, we're in the skies over France with Kingsley the night before D-Day. We're looking at C-47 transports under British command, and you can see the invasion stripes here. Also very nice uniforms for the paratroopers. The next shot shows them storming a bunker with a captured MP40. The soldier who gets shot is actually holding a Sturmgewehr 44, while the soldier on the right appears to be holding a submachine gun with a Luger snail-type magazine, though it's impossible to say which. Returning to the Pacific, we get a good look at what is probably the American carrier USS Enterprise. On deck are Douglas TBD Devastators armed with torpedoes. You'll note the telltale wings and air intake here. The next shot cuts to the rear gunner of a Dauntless engaging pursuers. The guns clearly jam, and the gunner is forced to whip out his M1911 pistol and take pot shots at aircraft. That might seem futile, but it allegedly did happen at least once in World War II, though under different circumstances. The next few shots provide some interesting information, right? We've got a ground campaign on an island, Sherman tanks pushing up the beach with men in tow. You can actually see a shell ricochet, which is pretty cool, and soldiers here are armed with the iconic M1 Garand. Opposite them, we can see a Japanese Type 96 LMG at work. Another shot reveals a massive bunker system built into the hillside, and this soldier is carrying a Thompson submachine gun. We also get a good look at a dive bombing run and the crippling explosion of what is probably the Japanese carrier Kaga. Meanwhile, we know this scene takes place boots on the ground in Normandy thanks to influencer information, and here we get a good glimpse of the familiar Sten submachine gun. Really nice animation of the action. I'm curious what happened in this scene as Petrova is covered in blood. She is holding a piece of paper in her hand which may be important intel for a mission. A German Stuka with its massive Bordkanone flies overhead here, and it looks like Soviet lines are falling in what is probably part of that Stalingrad mission. On the train, this soldier is equipped with a Japanese Type 100 SMG. An odd choice for the setting, but I'm a much bigger fan of this weapon choice. It's an obscure weapon called the Charlton automatic rifle. It was an emergency conversion of the bolt-action Lee Enfield rifle to a light machine gun. In the final shots, we get a lot of impressive atmosphere with the massive airdrop over Normandy. Also, the game trailer trend of 2021 appears to be people falling to their death. Overall, though, I enjoyed the trailer, especially its darker tone, focus on locations and atmosphere, and it is very apparent to me, especially digging into some of the story here that it looks like they're going to cover. Sledgehammer Games did their historical homework So I am quite excited in that regard. Looking forward to the journey that the studio is going to take us on. But I'm curious what you think about it. I had some real great flashbacks to Call of Duty 2 in the scene showcasing the Crusader tanks earlier. Tell me what you think, though, in the comments. Leave me a note down there. If you see something that I missed, make sure to leave that in the comments as well. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If not, a dislike. Make sure to subscribe and tap the bell for the latest updates on Call of Duty Vanguard. We'll, of course, be following this a little bit more closely than previous Call of Duties due to its historical nature. So if you want to stay up to date, subscribe, tap the bell. If you want to support the channel, keep your money, share this video. And as always, thanks for watching.